It's 1989. The end of the Cold War is approaching. In the midst of all of this, the Soviets are quickly gaining power, and North Korea is losing much of the power they have obtained for almost 45 years. North Korea needed to find a way to gain back the control they once had. But how would they achieve this?
Their solution? Create a nuclear program.
A program that would instill fear in the rest of the world. A program that would allow them to become one of the most dangerous countries in the world. A program that North Koreans believed would get them on the right path to regaining their power.
Once the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, also known as the NPT, was established, the United States soon realized that there was a problem developing in North Korea. On December 31, 1991, both North and South Korea signed the Joint Declaration on the Denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, which stated that both countries would not test, manufacture, produce, receive, possess, store, or deploy nuclear weapons. They also agreed to mutual inspections for verification. On February 9, 1993, the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, demands an inspection of two sites that are believed to store nuclear waste. Their request is based on North Korea cheating on its commitments under the NPT. North Korea refuses the request, and through the rest of the year starts to falter on their agreement that nuclear weapon use is not completely safe. The US CIA estimates that North Korea has 12 kilograms of plutonium, which is enough for 1 to 2 nuclear bombs. In 1994, North Korea began to allow the IAEA inspections once again, since 1993 when they had not been able to. But on June 13, 1994, North Korea announces its withdrawal from the IAEA and therefore withdraws itself from the NPT agreement. After several years of negotiations and sanctions imposed on North Korea for missile constrictions, Pyongyang, the capital city, states that it will only end its missile technology if it is compensated for their financial losses. Meanwhile, the Rumsfeld Commission is saying that the U.S. may have no warning before facing a missile threat from states such as North Korea and Iran. Seeing as though North Korea will not be compensated at $1 billion a year for ending missile exports, Kim Jong-il decides to meet with Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, and says that he will end his country's missile programs in exchange for assistance in launching satellites from countries with concerns of North Korea's missile program. When the Bush administration began in 2002, it criticized North Korea on the fact that it was focusing more on their nuclear programs rather than the 1 billion people that were starving. Although Bush wants to stop funding for North Korea, he decides to keep funding going for the agreed framework as to not upset North Korea because they were already upset by that comment. North Korea begins to cut all seals and disrupts IAEA surveillance on its nuclear facilities and materials. It was also suggested that North Korea started to move fresh fuel rods into the reactor that it might be restarted soon. On February 27, 2003, U.S. officials confirmed that North Korea has restarted the 5-megawatt nuclear reactor that had been frozen by the agreed framework. Trilateral talks began in Beijing in 2003, and eventually 6 of them were held. At the first one, North Korea tells the United States that they do have nuclear weapons. This is the first time that Pyongyang has admitted it and confirms the U.S.'s suspicions. Later in 2003, Bush states that the U.S. will not attack North Korea despite the possession of a workable nuclear device. In April of 2005, the U.S. contacts its allies to notify them that North Korea might conduct a nuclear test. Meanwhile, North Korea is threatening the U.S. to provide light water reactors to Pyongyang. A light water reactor is a type of thermal reactor that uses normal water as its coolant. Thermal reactors are the most common type of nuclear reactor, and light water reactors are the most common type of thermal reactor. So in order for you to have a nuclear reactor, you must have a thermal reactor, which stems from a light water reactor. North Korea states that it will never dismantle its nuclear deterrent before receiving the reactors. On July 4, 2006, North Korea test-fired 7 ballistic missiles, including its longest-ranging missile, the Taepodong-2. This is the turning point because it directly violates the North Korean agreement with the United States on not testing long-range missiles under the agreed framework document. They had observed this agreement since 1999 after saying that they would not launch missiles after they had launched the Taepodong-1. This affects North Korea because Japan and South Korea punished North Korea for conducting the test. Meanwhile, Tokyo imposes sanctions on Pyongyang, and Seoul halted food and fertilizer assistance. This has greatly affected North Korea and really changed their nuclear program. It affects their nuclear program because by violating the agreement, it shows them as untrustworthy, and therefore assistance with any resources from here on out will be very difficult. Animated picture of an underground nuclear test is similar to the first performed nuclear test in North Korea that was underground on October 9, 2006. The Korean Central News Agency said that the test was successful, that an earthquake was detected, and that there was no radioactive leakage from the site of launching.
Last night, the government of North Korea proclaimed to the world that it had conducted a nuclear test. We're working to confirm North Korea's claim. Nonetheless, such a claim itself constitutes a threat to international peace and security. The United States condemns this provocative act. Once again, North Korea has defied the will of the international community, and the international community will respond. This was confirmed this morning in conversations I had with leaders of China and South Korea, Russia, and Japan. We reaffirmed our commitment to a nuclear-free Korean peninsula, and all of us agree that the proclaimed actions taken by North Korea are unacceptable and deserve an immediate response by the United Nations Security Council.
On February 25th in 2008, Christine Amanpour toured North Korea's nuclear plant. CNN was one of the only two of the U.S. news teams allowed inside the nuclear facility. This is the control room, which is now offline and not under command. And this is where the heart of the nuclear reactor sits. It stores nuclear fuel rods which contain plutonium that can make nuclear bombs. Protective suits are needed in order to move the fuel rods and clean up contamination around the room. The reprocessing plant is where plutonium can be taken from the rods. As when she's interviewing the doctor, he tells her that the plutonium in the rods can be used for nuclear weapon devices. However, the doctor also tells her that the reprocessing plant where the plutonium is made has been disabled. North Koreans say that the dismantling program is 90% complete. Observers enter a room where nuclear fuel rods are stored in the pool below that have been disactivated. There are 1,600 rods in this pool, but there are still 6,000 active rods in North Korea. North Korea had tested its second nuclear device in May of 2009, and its most recent test was April 13, 2012. United Nations Security Council was told that North Korea has further isolated itself from the world community once again.
North Korea broke the rules once again by testing a rocket that could be used for long-range missiles. The world must stand together to prevent the spread of these weapons. We must stand shoulder to shoulder to pressure the North Koreans to change course.
Earlier in 2012, North Korea released a statement saying they would suspend its nuclear weapon test
in exchange for food supplies from the U.S. This gave many countries hope that North Korea was changing their ways under Kim Jong-un. However, when North Korea launched its most recent missile, the deal was ended. By launching their most recent missile, North Korea has not only made itself a threat to the world again, it has directly made a threat to the U.S. The world now stands in fear on North Korea's position on what they will do with their deadly nuclear weapons.